Hi everybody, this is Kevin and welcome back to another video. And today I would like to share my thoughts on the 2020 JRPG Yakuza Like a Dragon, which I played the PS4 version, but it's also available on the PS5, Xbox, and PC. Now this is a game that's been sitting in my backlog for quite some time. I want to say I bought it a year and a half ago. And you see I have the Daiichi Steelbook Edition, which at the very bottom it says includes Legends costume sets. There's a code here. I tried to put in the code, it kept saying it didn't work, and I was looking at the fine print. Apparently the code expired in November 2022. So if they're still releasing these Steelbook Editions, if they still have stock of them, I wonder if all the other codes are expired. And if that's the case, I feel bad, but what can you do? It's just a cosmetic design. And you can unlock more later on as we get into the jobs of the game, but more on that later. So let me show you the Steelbook. I gotta say, I absolutely love the Steelbooks, especially the other one that came with it. And with this one, we have Ichiban, Psycho. Up top, we have the GOAT from the movie theater minigame, which that minigame is absolutely hilarious. Ichiban goes there, and he's like, God, movies make me so sleepy. And then he falls asleep, and you gotta stay awake because these goats keep showing up. It's absolutely hilarious. That's just the insanity of the Yakuza minigames. But there's also the Arakawas and Sawashiro in the corner. And then we have Nanba and Adachi, the main four party members who you meet early on. And then this other Steelbook, you might consider it spoilery, but, you know, it's on the Steelbook, so I'll show it to you. And I just love the placement of all the characters here, where we have Ichiban in the center. Up top, we have Nanba, Arakawa, Sawashiro, and then to either side, we have Psycho, Joon-gi, Zhao, and Adachi. And man, what an excellent cast of party members. They're all excellent. One of the prerequisites for me when I play a JRPG, you gotta have a party member where the group, it makes sense for them to stick around and to work together. And in this game, it makes perfect sense. All the party members are fantastic. Ichiban he's a great main character. He's very relatable. One of the things I really like is all these characters are, I don't even want to say this, but they're old, you know? in most cases with JRPGs, you think, you know, the 16-year-old saves the world. It really ranges between a 16 and, you know, a 24-year-old or 25-year-old. Because there have been some JRPGs where, you know, like 20, like Titus in Final Fantasy X. What is he, like 20, 18, 20? Somewhere around there. I think Yuna's actually 18, so maybe that's right. I think Cloud's in his 20s, but, you know, just recently playing Trails in the Sky, Estelle and Joshua are 16. So we have 16-year-olds saving the world, and in this case, we have 40-year-olds saving the world, which Ichiban, I want to say he's either 41 or 42. Adachi's in his mid-50s. I think they said he's 56. So our main cast, they're a bunch of old men and Psycho. We have the one chick tagging along. So I love that. They make the characters more relatable. And Ichiban's motives and what he's doing in the story it's an excellent story. I love it. So one more thing before I get to the actual review is talk about the Yakuza series in general and how this was a nice change in pace to the series. So this Yakuza Like a Dragon is actually Yakuza number 7, if you can believe that. But really, it's the 8th Yakuza game, because at some point in the PS4 era, I believe these games started on the PS2, and then they were on the PS3, and then some on the PS4. But at some point, they released Yakuza 0, which is a prequel to the whole series. And, you know, you want to start there. If you want to see the whole story, you want to start with Yakuza 0 and play them all in order to this game. Because there are characters from the original Yakuza games who appear in this. Now, as someone who's never played the other Yakuza games before, it doesn't really bother me. When I saw these characters, I'm like, oh, they gotta be important. And then looking into more of their details, I'm like, oh, okay, so that one's from the other Yakuza games, huh? And I'd imagine if you played all 7 other games, playing this one and seeing them, you're really gonna have a good time. And there's even more cameos that I'm not going to get to right now because of spoilers. But it's okay to start with this one because the difference with this game as opposed to the 7 prior Yakuza games is the fact that they had action combat, whereas this one is turn-based combat in that, you know, you'll progress in the story and then you'll walk into an enemy, a group of enemies, and then it'll transition. You get the turn-based battles, you know, you can do attacks, do your special attack, you can have your summons, which is awesome. and the whole 9 yards. And a cool thing with the special attacks is depending on which attack you use, you either mash square to do more damage, or you wait for the right opportunity, press triangle, you do more damage, and then when you take hits, you press circle, and you can mitigate the damage. So they do the random battles very well. The turn-based combat is exceptionally well done, and you can start with this one. I started with this one, although I think it's more recommended you start with Yakuza 0 and then work your way through the series. Because again, there are characters from those games appearing here. Now, let's get to the actual review. Yakuza Like a Dragon honestly has one of the best hooks in any of the recent video games I've played, where you control a younger Ichiban Kasuga. I believe at this point he's 23 or so, and he's running errands for Master Arakawa, who is the leader of that particular Yakuza unit in the Tojo clan. And despite Ichiban, working for the Japanese mafia, the Yakuza, he tries to be a good guy, and he's always invoking Dragon Quest, where the one guy he's palling around with is like, "What are you talking about, Dragon Quest?" And Ichiban says something, "Oh yeah, Dragon Quest shaped me into the man I am today. I wouldn't be Ichiban Kasuga without it." And he's always talking about JRPGs and seeing life in that way, which, when you think about it, life really is one big JRPG. They mention later, we gotta grind for some gil, some gold. We gotta, slay these monsters, we'll get stronger. And all sorts of quotes like that. And honestly, this game was made by JRPG fans for JRPG fans. Because I didn't mention earlier, it's from Sega, which there's quite a number of references to Persona 5 in that you can level up your personality traits, and there's certain side quests and events and abilities locked behind that. When you get your party members, you can talk to them and increase your bond, and by doing that, not only do you learn more about them, but you also get stronger abilities. You can do like tag team attacks and so on and so forth. And there is a blatant Persona 5 reference to the romanceable options in this game, which we'll get to that a little later, I suppose. But yeah, things go a little wrong for Ichiban early on, and he ends up taking the blame for a crime he did not commit and serves 18 years in prison. So after he gets out, he's trying to look for his master, Master Arakawa, and he's acting like he doesn't know Ichiban. Teams up with Detective Koichi Adachi, or should I say former Detective Koichi Adachi, who, man, he's honestly, of all the, and there's a great cast of characters here, but Adachi is probably my favorite character, and just his whole arc of how he was this detective who was digging too deep into matters he shouldn't have been digging into, but because he has a good heart as well and wants to see justice served, he's continuing to pursue it, and the corrupt police commissioner, Horonoichi, wasn't having any of it. And there's a great quote later from Adachi where he might say it multiple times, but he's like, fucking Horonoichi. And because this game is rated M, there are lots of F-bombs, suggestive language, and really suggestive themes. No nudity, I don't think, but close to it. There's bars and things of that nature. So he teams up with Adachi, things sort of go south, and he ends up getting shot near death, but he's rescued by Yu Nanba, a former nurse now taking refuge in the homeless encampment. So he gets his ragtag group of party members, and they got to uncover all the problems in Ijinjo, which there are 3 main areas to explore in this game. There's Ijinjo, Kamurocho, and Sotenbori, which I believe are based on real places in Japan, and also appeared in the first, well, not the first, but all the other Yakuza games, as far as I can tell, because of the various references and whatnot that I was able to figure out. And from chapter 3 or 4 on, it opens up for you can do whatever you want to do. You can take part in the various mini-games like Dragon Cart, can collecting, which early on when he's found by Nanba, and then in the homeless encampment, they do that mini-game where you collect cans to trade it in for items and small amounts of yen and, and money and things like that. So you can do that. There are so many mini-games though, man. I don't even think I scratched the surface with them. You know, there's darts, there's baseball, there's golf, there's Dragon Kart. There's the one where you go to the movie theater and you gotta try to stay awake. Oh, you name it. There's something I didn't even do, like poker and blackjack and shogi. There's just so many. But I was doing the mini games that I thought were the most useful, whether they were involved with the side quest or getting trophies or good equipment. Which with the can collecting, there's some that will, if you get a certain amount of points, you can increase your personality traits. Because while you can increase that by doing the mini games and stuff, near the end, when I wanted to max everything out, I was like, oh, I need one more point, so I gotta do that. Which, that's another thing, too. So, in this game, with all the references to Dragon Quest, there's also a bunch of lovely ladies you can find in back alleys that'll give you a nice honk. And, that's obviously a reference to Puff Puff in the Dragon Quest games. So that was pretty funny. And it's hilarious, like, just the dialogue that they say to you. And, oh, I'll give you a nice Hong Kong time or whatever. And then after it's done, you'll get your HP and MP healed. And it'll increase your personality trait, you know, depending on if it was the older lady, like the old grandma Hong Kong, or there's even a dude who gives you Hong Kong. And it'll increase, like, your confidence, charisma, intelligence, whatever. Which, yeah, that's another minigame you meet later on. Which, this one was fucking hilarious, man. So, you go to the vocational school, which right outside the vocational school, you see an American. And mind you, with this game, there's actually English dub here, and I play the game with English dub. But maybe it's more intended for you to play the Japanese dub, because as far as I can tell, all the prior Yakuza games were in Japanese, but they gave this one more of a budget, so there's an English dub. Really terrific voice actors, which we'll go through them later, but with this cutscene, you're outside there, and there's this American guy who approaches Ichiban, and he's like, hey, how do I get to the station from here? Like, he's talking all exaggerated like that, and Ichiban's like, huh? What the hell are you saying, man? Which is funny, because he's saying it in English, but I'd imagine it's even funnier in the Japanese version, but he's like, what are you even saying, man? And then this other dude shows up wearing glasses, and this dude, I know all the voice actors, but I just want to mention that this voice actor who shows up to help Ichiban get out of this predicament is voiced by Johnny Young Bosch. And he's like, oh, what do you mean you don't know how to speak English? and he's helping the American get to the station. He's like, go left, then go right, go, and believe in yourself. And then the American guy is like, oh, thanks for the help. It's like, go, and believe in yourself. It's a scene that made me fucking die of laughter, man. Oh my god.
Excuse me. Huh? Would you tell me how to get to the station?
Huh? What nonsense you speaking?
Would you tell me how to get to the station?
Oh, shit. It's English. Sorry, my English no good?
Whoa, what?
I said, sorry, my English no good.
Looks like someone needs to brush up on their English.
Huh?
Can you tell me how to get to the station?
Go straight and turn right! Go! Go your way! And believe in yourself!
Oh, all right. Thank you.
You are welcome! Not bad, huh? Guess that English certificate really paid off.
And then you unlock that area to do the vocational tests to increase all your different attributes. Which, yeah, all the side quests, I think there's 52 side quests in total. Every single one of them is great. They don't necessarily even add to the story. I mean, maybe they add in that Ichiban meets all these new friends of his or whatever, but they don't really invoke that in the main plot. 'cause obviously they're side quests, they're optional. But you want to do them all, man, because they're fucking fantastic. Like, there's the one, how I mentioned how Ichiban was in the homeless encampment with Nanba, and there's the homeless guy going after this crawfish, Nancy the crawfish. And Ichiban's like, alright, well, because he's scared the crawfish off, so I'll help you find the crawfish. And he finds the crawfish, and the homeless guy's like, oh, yeah, man, I'm cooking this bad boy for dinner tonight. And Ichiban's like, what do you mean you're cooking him? I thought Nancy was your pet. What are you going to cook him for? And Ichiban takes him, takes her, I guess, Nancy, the crawfish, and it becomes part of one of his pound mates, the summons of this game, which the first time you get access to pound mates, Adachi finds a flyer that says pound mates, and as the name suggests, I mean, Adachi thinks it's like a strip club or you know, a call girl. And he's like, oh, Ichiban, let's call this. Come on, let's get it. And there's this big black dude named Gary Buster Holmes shows up. He's like, hey, you called pound mates? I'm here to help you. I'll service you. But that's your summon in the game. And it's just fantastic with Ichiban. He whips out his smartphone all dramatically. It's time to call a friend! And he calls whoever. And that was funny too. So I mentioned the first part of the game, the prologue, takes place in 2001. And then we progress to 2019. Because, yeah, I think this game came out in Japan in 2019 and then in America in 2020. And as Ichiban is out of jail, he gets his phone. He does not use it. He's like, what is this newfangled device, this smartphone? And he meets this guy named Nick Ogata, who you might think is kind of just, you know, some random dude. I mean, they gave him a name or whatever. But he actually shows up later on in the game and is very important. So it's just cool that this dude, Nick Ogata, shows up and teaches Ichiban how to use a smartphone. And some of the other side quests, I mean, they range from absolute insanity and hilarity to sad to wholesome to all three of them together. Like, there's another one where they hear a baby crying, and Ichiban runs into this dude who's carrying some diapers. So it's like, alright, we have the diapers, so you hear the baby crying, let's help the baby. And they go up there, and it's a fucking Yakuza guy role-playing as a baby. You gotta fight him. And he's like, why just spoil our fun? There's that. There's Mr. Masochist, which Mr. Masochist, man, this is a guy who goes to the dominatrix, and he can no longer be pleasured or feel any pain, but he keeps going. And, well, actually, before that, you see the dominatrix, who's this older woman, and she's getting ridiculed by the younger girls. So that's why this one actually blends everything together, in that it's just crazy, funny, over the top, it's sad, and it's wholesome in the end. If you can believe that. So Ichiban helps this dominatrix who's getting bullied by the younger girls, meets Mr. Masochist. Later on, Mr. Masochist is at the park, banging his head on the tree, and Ichiban's like, what the fuck is your problem, dude? Like, why are you banging your head on the tree? And he's like, well, I can no longer feel pain. I used to enjoy being whipped by beautiful women in leather, might I add. And Ichiban's like, alright, what the fuck are we gonna do? So he comes up with the great idea to find Mr. Masochist's mother. And Mr. Masochist's mother shows up and starts berating the dude. And it's almost like a literally me moment where Ichiban and Mr. Masochist are sitting on the swing set at night. His mother shows up. He's like, what have you done with your life? You're sitting here moping around. You know, your childhood sweetheart's all married and left you alone. And what are you doing in life? And it's like, it's literally me. and Mr. Masochist is like, oh, that was cold, man, but I still can't feel any pain. And then eventually he sees these thugs who are berating his dominatrix lady. And he grows a pair of protects her. And then he can feel pain again. And there's this funny scene where he, like, breaks out this weapon. Like, first of all, he takes off all his clothes. He's just wearing his tighty, whitey undies. And he breaks out this weapon. And Ichiban makes this face. He's like, where the hell did he pull that weapon out of? And it's almost implied that he literally pulled the weapon out of his asshole, which he might have. And he's added to the pound mates. And actually a great ability for if you want to tackle the post-game dungeon. Where it's called Comfortably Numb, because he can no longer feel pain. And his ability when you summon him in pound mates makes it so the party's invulnerable for damage for a few turns. So, oh my god, just even talking about that, I wonder how this is going to sound in editing when I when I go back to the video, but trust me, dude, it's absolutely hilarious.
Who do I call?
You can win. Who wants to go?
Time to call a friend! I summon you!
Have you been a good boy?
Yes!
Well,
The pleasure's all
Let's go! You're in it now!
So you got Mr. Masochist. There's also, oh god, the guy at the circus, which you see him 3 times. The first time there's a bear, and he's like, oh, this bear can do all these tricks. And then the bear gets out of the cage, and Ichiban and the ringleader from the circus make these exaggerated faces. You gotta fight the bear, put it back in the cage. Then there's a tiger, the same thing happens. And then the third one is Carla-chan, the chimpanzee, which prior to that, they also show a bunch of construction workers, and I think there's 3 of them, and there's like this excavator tool. There's the one guy on break, the new guy who just started, and then the disgruntled employee, and they all sort of are not paying attention to their equipment. Carla-chan breaks free from her cage, starts swinging on all the trees, and then of course takes control of the heavy equipment. And you gotta fight the equipment, and then you can fight Carla-chan and get her back in her cage. And as all this is going on, the fucking machinery gets caught on fire, and you have Ichiban. There's this hilarious scene. It's Ichiban, the monkey, and the ringleader all sitting next to each other, like, oh, all's well and all's well, I guess. And behind them is the machinery on fire as all the construction workers are just looking at it like, what the fuck do we do? And then Ichiban's running away like, I gotta get the hell out of here. You guys are all insane. So there's that. There's also the one with the little girl who's raising money for her brother in the hospital. And there's these other people raising money, and they say it's for some sort of charity, but of course it's not for a charity, it's for their pockets. And the little girl looks up to them like, oh, they're doing it for a nice cause, but they're really not. So then Ichiban uncovers that and is able to help the girl raise money for her brother to have surgery. That's like one of the more wholesome ones. There's also a bum who Ichiban meets later, who he sort of coaches in life, like, all right, you gotta man up, and because he goes to the soup kitchen and he likes the girl who gives, you know, the food at the soup kitchen, and he changes his life around. Like, you see him as a bum, and then he gets a haircut, you know, nicer clothes, and they start going out. There's another side quest where this guy is at a bathhouse, and he gets a call from his grandmother. So he's racing to go find his grandmother, and he forgets his clothes. So he's running around with all these soap suds around him, and with Ichiban, we have to go find him clothes. And you just get all these wacky interactions from the NPCs, like, that guy's not wearing any clothes. And Ichiban's like, all right, let's go to the store. And then the clerk at the store is like, we can't let him in. He has no clothes on. Ichiban's like, oh, come on, his grandmother's ill. We gotta get the guy some clothes. So it's like, dude, the side quests are fucking crazy in this game. So that's just scratching the surface of the side quests. They're all excellent. Oh, I should also mention Eri. So Eri is an optional party member, which I actually like her side quest. I almost wish she doesn't even join the party, though, because in the main story, she never appears in the main story cutscenes, which I can kind of understand, because honestly, it doesn't really make sense for her to even join Ichiban in his, battle against the Yakuza and things like that, and the various mafias and so forth. So I get that, but honestly, don't make her a party member then. Just keep her as the side quest. And you gotta help her. She has this management minigame where she runs Ichiban Confections, which is kind of funny. It's a shop named after him, because Ichiban actually means number 1 is the rough translation. And so you help her rise up in the ranks for the company and the stock markets. You get in contact with Nick Ogata again, because he's of course a rich philanthropist, and he gives Ichiban some money. And that's actually your way to make a lot of money early on in the game, is just keep doing this minigame, which I probably spent 10 hours on the damn minigame. But it was necessary for all the trophies too, so of course I had to. And yeah, Eri joins the party, but again, it's like, I only used her in one instance because I must have got her really early. And there's an instance where, for the most part, you'll have Ichiban, Nanba, Adachi, and Saiko. But then one of them leaves, and then I think you're just supposed to have 3 party members, but Eri was with me, so she was in the party anyway. And that's literally the only time I ever used her, because she more or less has the same abilities as Psycho, except for her default job class, but she can learn all the other job classes, and Psycho's just better. Sorry. I like Eri in the minigame, but as far as the main story, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And yeah, all the, most of the female NPCs are romanceable. I think Psycho's romanceable. The woman from the job place is romanceable. There's the Romance Workshop, funnily named, where you can upgrade your equipment. And you find all these materials throughout the game. You can upgrade your equipment. So that's more useful than just buying equipment, because in most cases it's overpriced. So you can just upgrade. Like the hero's bat that you get early on, you can just upgrade that, and that's the weapon I had at the end of the game for Ichiban, because it was so good. So you have that, and yeah, you can romance all these chicks, and similar to Persona 5, if you romance everybody, you get a scene at the end where it's like, oh, you're seeing me, I'm seeing you, what's going on? And they all draw their weapons and start attacking Ichiban. Poor Ichiban, he just wanted a little something something, you know? Which, I don't know, who would I pick? I would probably pick Iroha. She was definitely the most attractive of all of them, but Sumeri's pretty cute too. They're all pretty cute, but Iroha is probably the best. And yeah, you learn more about these characters by doing their bonding events, the whole 9 yards. Back to the Dragon Quest question. So, yeah, Ichiban lives his life having played Dragon Quest as a young boy. Early on, they see a bat in the ground, and Namba tries to pull it out, he can't do it. Adachi tries to pull it out, he can't do it. So Ichiban pulls it out. He's like, I'm the legendary hero from Dragon Quest. And then he makes note, too, how, like, these enemies change into goblins and monsters? And they're like, the fuck are you talking about, Ichiban? They're just random people. What are you talking about? So he likes to roleplay. And then later on, you get the different job classes, which I think... So the default for Ichiban is called Freelancer. And then you get one, after you get the bat, it's called Hero. And then the default for Nanba is Homeless Man. And then Adachi is Detective. And it's really cool that they incorporate all the different abilities. Like for Nanba being the Homeless Man, he's actually your black mage of the group. Because he can do like Pyro Breath, which is basically taking a swig of alcohol and then, breathing fire. So that's your fire attribute. But you get other ones later on, like there's one called Fortune Teller, and with that one you get like Thunder attribute. And there's a funny quote from one of the characters you get later in your party named Zhao, which they all can get this ability, but it's funnier for him, where you can use the Thunder ability, and he's like, nature's gonna own your ass! And the battle quotes are just so hilarious, man. Like there's one in between battles, and you just stand idly by for a bit, and Adachi will do a stretch, and he's like, ugh! My back is killing me! And it's so funny because the dude is in his mid-50s, so yeah, his back is gonna be killing him.
Eyes on me.
Out of my way! Nature's gonna own your
Let's go. My back is killing me.
And oh my god, it's absolutely hilarious, man. All the voice work in this game is terrific. I should go over the voice actors now because I haven't done that, but okay, so let's go through some of the voice actors here. Really a terrific English dub voice cast. They had a nice blend of your traditional anime and video game voice actors, as well as, your more non-traditional voice actors. So we'll go through them real quick. We have Kaiji Tang as Ichiban Kasuga, which I've heard a lot of Kaiji Tang in recent, games and shows I've watched, and the dude is fantastic. As Ichiban, he steals the show, and he's becoming one of my favorite voice actors. So bravo to Kaiji Tang. You did an excellent job. We have Brian Bloom as Joe Sawashiro. Greg Chun as Yu Nanba. Here's one of the non-traditional voice actors. We have George Takei as Masumi Arakawa. Elizabeth Maxwell as Psycho. Andrew Morgata as Adachi. Will Yun Lee as Masato Arakawa, Sung Won Chu as Mitsuha, John Eric Bentley as Tendo, Rino Romano as Ishioda, which this guy had like a Brooklyn accent. It was fantastic, man. He always says the word fuck all the time, and he's like, you fucks, Tendo, fucking Tendo. And just the way he says it is so good, man. I loved Ishioda. One of the villains, but a great villain at that. JB Blanc as Hoshino, Darren DePaul as Takabe, Fiona Ren as Sung Hui, Kyung Sim as Joon-gi Han, Robbie Damon as Zhao, Edward Bosco as Mabuchi, Valerie Aram as Hamako, William Salers as Nonomiya, Eden Regal as Eri, Cassandra Lee Morris as Iroha, Stephanie Shea as Sumere, Erica Harlacher as Miyokoshi, Shirami Lee as Ririka, and I think I am going to not talk about the other voice actors because those are spoilers, which some of these might have been spoilers too, but what can you do? But yeah, maybe I'll just go over like some of the other actors because they have their other voices that don't get credited as main characters, but there's Armin Taylor, Bryce Pappenbrook, David Forseth, Erica Limbeck, Johnny Young Bosch, Keith Silverstein, Kirk Thornton, Kyle Haber, Lex Lang, Richard Epcar. There's a ton of other voice actors who are credited as, you know, NPCs who necessarily don't have names or smaller roles. So excellent voice cast. They all did a phenomenal job, and I always play my games of English dubs if it's an option. I don't mind if it's Japanese only, but if it's an option, I'll take the English dub, and the English dub is fantastic in this game. Terrific performances, and I can't recommend it enough. Another thing I wanted to mention was the fact that I don't typically play games with ultra-realistic graphics. I prefer my games to be anime as fuck, and while this game does have ultra-realistic graphics, this game is certified anime as fuck. Let me just say. So I just want to talk about Ichiban again and why I think he is such a great character. And number one, which I already mentioned this before, the fact that he's 42 years old, and I'm not even close to being 40 yet, but just him being older than the average 16 to 25-year-old JRPG protagonist makes him more relatable. This is a real-world setting as opposed to a fantasy world. I mean, it's still a video game, but it's more of a real-world setting. And he's relatable in that sense. He's hit rock bottom, and he's trying to work his way up. And there's a particular quote later on in the game, which you may find this spoilery, but I'm just going to say it. And one of the characters says to Ichiban, you know, you have a good heart, and you're doing the best that you can, Ichi. And it's so true. And honestly, after beating the game, that is probably my favorite cutscene of the entire game. It just hits so hard, and it's so emotional because of the other things that are said in that cutscene. I'll try to include it in a way that it's not spoilery, but just based on the two characters who are interacting, maybe it is spoilery, so I don't know. I'll have to have like timestamps or whatever.
You've got a good heart and you're doing the best you can. It doesn't matter where you were born.
Thank you, sir.
I'm curious. Did you ever want to find your parents?
Good question. I don't really know. At this point, I've gotten pretty used to not knowing them.
You've gone through a lot. Not that I have any right to speak to you about it. Well, no point in dwelling on a dream. That's all it is, right? I can go the rest of the way from here. See you tomorrow, Ichi.
All the other characters too, and their motives, like we have Adachi, which I briefly talked about him, and how he was a former detective who was delving too deep into a case which was going to expose the police commissioner and his corruption. So he was placed to the DMV position, and then he was fired from that, and it was a few months away from his pension, so he wants to get back at that fucking Horonoichi, which he says that's so many times, fucking Horonoichi. I guess on the way he says it, the voice actor for Adachi is so good, man. So he's trying to get back at that fucking Horonoichi police commissioner. We have Nanba, who's looking for his brother, Psycho, and her relationship with her sister, and then the other redacted party members, but trust me, they all have good stories as well. So I should probably talk about the villains now, and how there's a lot of gray areas with them, and one of the adversaries in this game, Bleach Japan, is trying to do away with the gray areas and make everything black and white. But is that really a good thing? Because, you know, there are morally gray areas, and I think this game tackles social issues very well in that way. In that not everything is one way or the other way. There's always a middle ground there. And so you have Bleach Japan, who are essentially these activists. Can we say they're Twitter activists? Maybe. But they're going around and trying to do away with the brothels and soaplands and things like that, which are, you know, technically illegal, but the corrupt police turn a blind eye, as they do to the Yakuza. And in this case, we have what's known as the Great Wall of Muscle, and there's 3 groups who all work together. You have the Seiryu clan, which is, you know, the basic Yakuza group. There's also the Yokohama Ryomon, which is a Chinese mafia. And then there's also the Gomijul, which is the Korean mafia. And at first, it seems like they're all adversaries, but as you delve deeper into the plot, they're all sort of working together to essentially keep the other Yakuza out of Ijincho, which is namely the Omi Alliance. And I don't want to say too much about it without avoiding spoilers, but I think they handle all those things very well. It's interesting to watch the plot unfold and how at first you don't really know who's the villain and who you can really trust, but as things come together, it all makes sense. And the game makes a case, a very good case, for the gray areas existing, why they should exist, and how it benefits people to a certain degree. So as the game progresses, the general plot is we have the Yakuza, of course, conspiring with the politicians and the police. And as Ichiban delves deeper, being the true hero at heart, the true Dragon Quest hero, he wants to save the city. And, you know, with all the friends he met along the way, he does that. So, yeah, I thought about kind of going into spoilers here, but I've sort of tiptoed around the spoilers. The video, I feel, has gone on long enough, so just know that the game is fucking great, and you guys should all play it. And I highly recommend it, and what more can I say? So at another point in the game, you also unlock the battle arena, which is just great, man. There's this robot that guards the door, and it goes, Yappy! And it's called Yappy-kun. And it's this little robot. And early on, you can go in there and keep running the gauntlet to make a lot of money and level grind. And later on, you unlock the sewers, which there's this one enemy. It's called like the Infested Vagrant or something. He's basically a homeless guy. And he runs from battle, but if you're able to defeat him quick, you get a ton of experience. You can grind your job levels and stuff there. Which, yeah, I talked about jobs briefly, but another thing with jobs is certain abilities you can only use when you have the job equipped. And then other abilities will carry over. And then I think every 5 to 10 levels you get permanent stat increases, like, you know, attack +5 or defense +5, whatever. And then other job classes too. I think I only talked about the fortune teller. You have the host, where you can get like your booze and just like dump booze on people, and the status element, you can inflict drunkenness on the enemies. There's the foreman. There's the idol for the ladies, and the idol is basically the white mage. There's all sorts of party members. I like how they infuse real life jobs in a certain sense, and the equipment you can use. Like Ichiban is the hero, uses the bat. Joon-gi Han uses brass knuckles as the hitman. Zhao uses the saber. Adachi uses the police baton. It's cool how they incorporate all the weapons. I like how they handled that. Back to more of the wacky side quests. There's another side quest where this guy keeps running out of toilet paper, and we have to deliver toilet paper to him. And it's like, oh, it's the second time it's happened. It's the third time it's happened. Third time's the charm. And it's like, we're really delivering toilet paper to this guy? It's just crazy, man. So again, back to more of the crazy hijinks in this game. There's an instance where we have to get information about the Yokohama Ryomang, and Psycho becomes a hostess at the bar where they hang out. And there's this one guy who starts hassling her, and there's a quote from her where it's like, he tried to lick my arm. It's like, what the fuck, man? And there's also, I know I mentioned Carla-chan, the chimpanzee from one of the side quests, but there's another villain who you fight later who operates this wrecking ball. And you have to fight him with the wrecking ball. It's just so over the top and crazy, man. There's also a scene when Ichiban fights a redacted character, and he literally dons his Dragon Quest armor in like his existential crisis. It's a great scene, and there's so much to cover, man. But I'm trying to avoid spoilers here. So if for whatever reason you're still not preoccupied by doing all the side quests, the main story, the mini games, whatever, there's also another side quest known as Part-Time Hero, where you meet this basically a tokusatsu character wearing a mask, and I think his name is like Hiro-kun, except it's spelled H-I-R-O. And he tells you about Part-Time Hero. You can do the odd jobs there where you have to stop, you know, certain villains, or you can bring items to the shop and get money, find lost characters, like there's a lost boy or something, you gotta reunite him with his parents, and little quests like that. So there's always something to do in this game. There's also, oh god, the Sujimon Professor, which is the blatant ripoff of Pokemon. The Sujimon are basically the enemies you encounter, and you gotta fill the Pokedex for this guy. And he's like, you could be the very best like no one ever was. And the characters are all pretty funny. Like, you'll find your basic Yakuza thugs, whatever. There's even baseball fans who have baseball bats. The homeless vagrants. There's the one guy who's wearing a trench coat and he'll flash himself. There's the dancing lunatics. The oh god, they had one called something like the Lazy Otaku or something. Just the names for some of the characters you can fight are pretty hilarious. There's also the safes too, which are basically like your treasure chests, and sometimes enemies will pop out there, and I think one of the quotes is like a weirdo popped out of the chest. You gotta fight him. Oh man, there's so many little things in this game that are just so good. I could honestly probably go on about it for hours, but you know, how long do you guys have to watch? So I realized I never did a spoiler section for this video, and that's because I was looking at the runtime, and it's gone on long enough. I feel like I've touched all the bases I wanted to talk about, from the characters to the combat, all the side quests. I never even really mentioned the music either. It has a great soundtrack. There's some Dragon Quest jingles when, you know, new party members will join. I'll be like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, you know, the Dragon Quest jingles, some remixed Dragon Quest themes. But otherwise, there's great songs. The main battle theme is called, I shit you not, the main battle theme is called the Yokohama Crack House. That's the name of the music. So that's what we're dealing with here. But it's got a great OST. If you need to look it up, definitely look it up and play any song. But maybe if you want to filter for the most views, I'm sure that's the better songs, but in particular, one of my favorite songs is called Friendship. And that plays at a lot of key moments because there are power friendship moments in this game, absolutely. But yeah, like I said, I more or less covered all the bases. I realize some of my subscribers haven't played this game, but there was also some of my subscribers who have played this game. So if you have played this game and you want to talk more about the spoilers, please leave a comment. We'll talk about it there. If you guys want, I could do another video just talking spoilers. But mainly, this is just my thoughts after beating the game and getting it all out there and letting you know that, yes, I did get the Platinum Trophy. I was grinding for a few hours to get my levels up for 99 for a few job classes. And I took down the true Final Millennium Tower. I was going to call it the dungeon, but it's the tower. And, yeah, some cool rewards there for beating that. And as far as the playtime, I want to say I clocked in a little under 80 hours, somewhere around there, but between 75 and 80 hours for the main story, and like 90 something after doing all the post-game stuff. And mind you, I got all the trophies, I got the platinum, I did all the side quests. I didn't do all the part-time hero quests because, fuck, I couldn't. There's a lot there, man. And they do New Game Plus, so maybe you can carry that over and finish that New Game Plus. And perhaps I'll Let's Play this game at some point. But I really enjoyed my time. It was really sad saying goodbye to these characters, but I do know they're going to do Yakuza Infinite Wealth, which is the sequel to Yakuza Like a Dragon. If you look up the trailer, our boy, Ichiban, in the trailer wakes up naked on the beach. So how the hell did he wind up in that situation? I'd love to know. And I am going to get that game on day one when it releases, because I love this game so much. I highly recommend it. I'm kind of sad. I bought this game a year and a half ago, and it took me this long to play it. I'm so happy I finally did, and you guys should understand by now my backlog, all the crazy games I got to play, going through Trails from Zero right now. I'd like to play the Xenoblade Chronicles games at some point, and I would like to go back and play the other Yakuza games, 0 through 6, right? Because this is 7. It's so damn confusing, because there's 8 games, it's 0 to 6, 7, and then Yakuza Infinite Wealth is 8, but it's really Yakuza 9, and then there's the Yakuza Kiwami games. So I don't know what the fuck the order is. Someone will have to leave a proper play order comment down below as well. But otherwise, I've got on long enough. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for whatever else I'm going to be doing soon. I will probably do a first impressions of Trails from Zero, or that might already be out by now, so who knows. But thanks, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and peace out.
99.